Views expressed on this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers, and are not necessarily those of this station, its management, or other advertisers. You're listening to Transformation Talk Radio.
Hi everyone, this is Sherry Clark, and welcome to Courage to be Seen. This show's for anyone who longs to take charge of their life, to create more success, accomplish their dreams, and to live in inspiring ways to be powerfully visible and visibly powerful. I will be sharing stories with you from my own career and experiences, from leading engineering teams for the last 20 years, and also from interactions I have been blessed to have with people I've met from around the world. I want to give you the tools, techniques, strategies, and inspiration so you can be the best you. You can achieve the success you desire, personally and professionally. Being authentic, confident, and empowered are the keys to success and the life that you want. You can have the courage to be seen. Hi, I'm Sherry Clark, and welcome to Courage to be Seen. I'm excited that you're here with me today. And today we're going to talk about those times when, like, maybe you feel stuck, or there's a decision that, you need to make or you're thinking about, and it's just keeping you from moving forward. And John Maxwell says, life is a matter of choices. Then every choice you make makes you. So what's keeping you from moving forward right now? Is there something that you've been thinking about that you're trying to figure out that's just stopping you from doing anything? Maybe it's almost like keeping you frozen. And this is just a decision that or a sign that you're having trouble making a decision. But sometimes then you could say once that decision gets made, everything just seems to move forward and it seems so easy. So the real question is, what can we do so we can make those decisions? So we're not just sat spinning and trying to figure out what that decision should be. That most people actually find making decisions difficult. We have lots of processes and procedures. Maybe we're gathering data. We need to sleep on it. We need to get more people's opinion. And we do a lot of this in the words of trying to make the right decision. But the reality that most people don't want to hear is many times, as much as we try to make the right decision, you'll never know if you're making the right decision until after you actually make it. And sometimes both decisions or both options could be really good ones, but you'll never really know with most decisions if it was a good one until sometime after, and then it kind of plays out of that decision. I thought about doing this show. My whole kind of idea was when I heard last month that Alex Morgan, if you don't know her, she is on the USA women's soccer team and the one that won the World Cup. And her and her husband announced that they're expecting. And so I was thinking about that, and everything that you have to do, especially as an athlete at that level, that goes into a decision on if you're going to have a child. Are you going to have the child, in season, out of season, that 9 months. The soccer team plans on playing in the Olympics next summer. And I know Alex has said that she would like to be on that Olympic team. And so when you kind of figure that out, what a decision that you have to make. I know some female athletes have been penalized by their sponsors because they've gotten pregnant and then maybe, can't compete in track or various things. And so that was the idea. I thought of, wow, this was just something that I had been reading about. And there's a lot of people that have the same kind of decisions, maybe not to the level of the professional athletes. And Serena Williams, there was a lot going on. I think it was HBO that they kind of chronicalized her having her daughter and having to go through some of the decisions that she wanted to get back in shape and training and play at her professional tennis career. And her trainer had to have a conversation around breastfeeding. And could she continue to nurse and get in the physical shape that she wanted to compete at? So a lot of tough decisions that women have to make. I know I had some that I had when I had my boys. One, I know my oldest son, I did a trip to an oil refinery, something that you do as an engineer. We were going to install some equipment, and I wasn't too far along, but I was climbing up the ladders in the equipment in the oil refinery. And then with my youngest son, I didn't do a ton of travel when I was pregnant, but I did do a trip to Europe, and I went to Switzerland and Germany. I've never gone to India or China when pregnant. But women have these decisions in their careers that, pregnancy does affect. So that's kind of like the first idea that I had, that we should do a show, primarily on how to make decisions. And maybe you're thinking, okay, I'm done having children, I'm not interested in children, or just that kind of thing those kind of decisions I'm not worried about right now. But how about the holidays are coming up? Holidays are a lot of stress for a lot of people, mainly because of decisions. And you want maybe to make people happy, or your family expects you to do one thing and you would like to do something else for the holidays. How do you make those decisions and try to keep everybody on the same page? Or I know we have our own holiday traditions. I'd love to spend more time with my family, but it doesn't work out. So that's not what we do. The next big decision that I think I get a lot of people, asking me about, or asking for mentoring or coaching on, is career decisions. That people want to know what they should do next. There's not a clear line of sight for, what you do in your career. There's not one path. Everyone takes the exact same steps in their career. So the fact that there's a lot of gray actually, makes it tough for people to say, should I take this next job, or when should I take this next job, or what should I do with my career? Also with that, many times if you're going to take one decision, the other one closes the door. So people like to keep options open, but sometimes you have to make a decision and actually close a door to move things forward. So I did some research on the internet. There's a lot of places that say that people make 35,000 decisions a day. While that's said all over the place, I couldn't find any actual sources or references of where this number came from. It seems like a lot, because if you were going to make 35,000 decisions a day, you would have to be making a decision every 2 seconds. And while we do things every 2 seconds, like what page to read on the internet, or should I stand or should I sit, I don't really think that that's a realistic number of decisions that we do make. A Columbia University researcher stated that, though, in her research, the average person makes 70 conscious decisions a day. That seems more realistic, that you could think of, okay, I actually decided to do 70 things a day. And let's say if you got 8 hours of sleep, so that in 16 hours, you spread those 70 decisions. That's still a lot of decisions that you're making on a regular basis. So if we're making so many decisions, you'd think we'd be good at it. So why is it so hard to make decisions? And what are those decisions that you find easy? And what decisions that do you find difficult? The first reason that I think that, making decisions is hard is we're worried about what other people are going to think. That we say we're trying to make the right decision. Many times it's not you're trying to make the actual right decision. You're trying to make it, you don't want people to think you made the wrong decision. You don't want that judgment from others of what are they going to think after you've made this decision. That too often we just say we want to be liked. I had to come to that realization long ago at work. I have to make a lot of decisions. And if I'm going to make decisions with the whole intent to be liked, I will not make the right decisions for the business. So you really want to make sure you're following your gut and you're making that decision and not worry so much about what the opinion of others is. Be true to yourself when you make those decisions. The second thing of why making decisions is hard is too often, if you make a decision, you have to take an option off the table. You can't have both. while you're in that process of making the decision, it might seem like you're kind of having both, but you do have to at some point say, I'm going to go with A, so I'm not going to have B, and you have to close that. I've had to do this with some of my career choices and career options. Early on in my career, as I was kind of debating about different things, I might want to keep like both paths open to see, well, could I go this way or could I go this way? What I found is it's much better if I just sit down and decide, what do I want? And it's all right to close like option B, close that door. If it's not the right one, just take it off the table and be okay to go with option one. You don't need to have both options once you've decided. But too often we want to keep with it. And then the last reason that many times that we're having trouble to make decisions is really that we're trying to avoid responsibility. Like we don't want to be the one that is responsible if things go wrong. We'd rather someone else makes the decision and then focus on the implementation. I find that often that I can usually get help from people to implement things, but sometimes for them to make the decision can be the hard thing. Like they'd rather bring you the options, all the research, and have me make the decision. And so sometimes I just like to say, okay, well, what do you suggest? What do you recommend? And usually people always make the right decision, but they just don't want that responsibility of, in case things go wrong, that yes, if it's good, they get the recognition, but if it goes bad, they don't want to be known as the person that made that decision. A KPMG study said 41% of people are overwhelmed with information, so they avoid making the decisions. That some of the studies even show that, like in shopping, if there's too many options, that people will be just too overwhelmed. Like, let's say you want to go jean shopping. If you go into a store and there's this whole wall with lots and lots of blue jeans, many times that actually reduces the chance that someone's going to buy a pair of blue jeans, versus if they have a smaller number of options to choose from, and they're more likely to buy. I know I've been sometimes overwhelmed when you just have too many options, and that's what they say. 41% of people say if there's just too many options, it gets too overwhelming. I'm not going to decide. So, what steps can you take to make better decisions? One quote is that it is often said that a wrong decision taken at the right time is better than the right decision taken at the wrong time. So I think that's important for us to keep in mind, because sometimes you just need to make the decision, and delaying it forever that doesn't help you. So we want to make decisions, and let's kind of focus on how do we make those decisions and how do we make them faster. I think engineers are actually good at making decisions. Some of that is because every day they have to make small decisions. Maybe they're not, as consequential as some of the decisions we're going to talk about. But let's say you're designing a circuit. We have to pick a resistor value. So you get practice making little decisions. And many times also engineers tend to be data oriented. So there's kind of less emotions involved in some of their decisions. And so using data and getting practice making decisions on a regular basis, that you can just be better. And decision making takes practice. That I like to think of the fact that when I think about decision making, and I think about if people are making the right decisions or wrong decisions, nobody wakes up in the morning and goes, I plan to make bad decisions today. When you really just think about, everybody gets up in the morning and wants to do good things. They want to make good decisions. Now, people will make the best decisions they can from their point of view, with the data they have, with the experience they've had. And so sometimes that can limit, the success of their decisions, because they don't have the whole story. They don't have the whole set of data, or they have a different viewpoint than you have. But people tend to want to make good decisions. I just believe that kind of in my heart. And so steps that you can can take, though, so you can start practicing on making better decisions. The first one is set a time limit. You need to set a time limit of how long are you going to think about this decision before you make it. Some decisions, maybe that's an hour. Other ones, it can be really good to think about, like, to the next day. Maybe you need to sleep on it. Big decisions, maybe you want to go a week, but there's very few decisions you really should go longer than that. Because at that point, you're really just procrastinating. You're finding reasons not to make the decision. And not making a decision is a decision. You don't have to decide. You can consciously say, I'm not going to decide, and then live with those consequences. But set up a time. So that's the first step. So if you have a big decision, whatever that might be, first think of how long am I going to think about before deciding, and then set a time and then decide at that point. The second thing is make sure that you're picking what you want to do. Don't be deciding based on what you think the reaction of others are going to be, or this is really what other people want, but it's really against what you want in your heart. So put yourself first. You're the one that's going to live with the decision. So make sure that you're doing that. The third one is write it out. You can do like a pro and a cons list. You can journal. Sometimes get those ideas out of your head onto paper to help you make the decision. Some people like really kind of fancy tools like Pew Matrix. We use them at work to help compare different ideas. But put the ideas down, from your head onto paper, and sometimes that can provide some clarity. The fourth thing is actually sometimes sounds the simplest, but it's probably the hardest, is just pick one. Too often, like two options are too close together really to say which one's better than the other. And sometimes you just need to pick one and then live with the consequences. We did this with my son. We set him up with an IRA so he could start to learn about investing. And so he has his money in there ready to go. And we said, well, now you got to invest it. And you have to pick something to invest in. And he's like, well, how do I pick? And I'm like, you're going to invest this for like 30, 40 years. So it really doesn't matter, right? Right now, you just need to pick something, have some good options, the S&P, the Qs, the Dow Jones, very simple things. But like after that, just pick out of the good options. The fifth thing is talk it over with someone. Ideally, it's someone that's not vested in the outcome, so they're not going to try to influence the result. But talking it out with somebody can actually help you get your thoughts clear, and they can ask questions to help you make your decision. The sixth item is start to implement the decision. Just saying you made the decision, but you don't have any implementation, you didn't really make a decision. So I like to, when I make a decision, find something I can do right away, something I can do today, some action I can take to start the ball kind of moving, and then put an action plan in place with some deliverables and deadlines. And then you could say you really implemented that decision. And then the last step is remain flexible. Because you don't know if you're making the right decision or not, you want to remain flexible as you learn. And you find out, well, okay, maybe the end goal was the right one, but my path to get there could have been better. And it's not working. And I could make some changes, some modifications. So I can still get to where I want to go, but I need to go on a different path. There's different levels of decisions. Some of them you could say are simple things like, what are we going to have for dinner tonight? But there are some life-changing decisions that you want to think about. And so when you're stuck, find out, think about, is this a simple decision I should just move forward with? Or is it life-changing that maybe there's a reason why it's taken a long time? So things like where you went to, or where you're going to go to school and what you're going to study, that's life-changing. It kind of sets you on a trajectory in life. Yes, you could study something again later, but at least for a period of time, you're going to be headed in one direction. Choosing your partner or who you hang out with, your friends, they will kind of dictate, what direction your life goes. So choose those, wisely as you're making decisions. Where you're going to live, are you going to buy, you're going to rent. I've lived all over the United States. I've lived in, I think 6 different states. And so we had a wide variety of experiences, and we could talk about, pros and cons of that. But each place we lived, it did dictate parts of our life. You deciding to have kids. That's a big decision if you're going to have kids or not. Making a career change, another life-changing decision that you have to make. You could say your lifestyle, eating, exercise, self-care, things that you do and put in your life. And then lastly, I like to think about finances and kind of how you budget and are you saving for retirement? How much credit do you take on? These are things that when you think of, these are how you kind of could change your life in one trajectory or another. Other decisions, like where you're going to spend Thanksgiving, doesn't necessarily change the direction of your life. So as you're using the techniques that we went over earlier, know how significant is the consequence. Is it one of these areas that you could like kind of change the trajectory of your life? Are you trying to make a career change? Are you trying to change companies? Are you trying to change from an individual contributor to become a manager? Those are big steps that you want to take some time to make your decision. But if it's something as simple as what I want to do this weekend, or what hotel I'm going to stay at for the holiday, don't let those decisions that aren't as consequential just drive you crazy. You need to learn how to make those decisions and move on. I used to spend a lot of time researching hotels when we take vacation. And I learned that I really just needed to pick one. And after I always picked it, my husband always said yes. So why I used to stress so much about picking the hotel, to take on vacation, I really don't know. Now we just grab one and we kind of go. And so I really tried to break my decisions up. Is it in this life-changing category? And then I take time and make sure I'm making the right decision. Or is it something you just need to decide and go? So the 7 items that will help you to make the decision, if we can just summarize. The first one, set a time limit. Know how long you should take that decision. And how much time really should be, is it one of these life-changing decisions, or is it a smaller decision? If it's a smaller decision, maybe 1 hour or 2 hours is good enough. If it's life-changing, take that week, take that time to make the decision. Second one, pick what you want to do. Make that decision for yourself. Don't make that decision based on what the reaction for others is going to be. Follow your heart. Third one, write it out. Use a journal, use a list. Get those ideas kind of out of your head so you can work through them. And once they're on paper, many times it's easier to make the decision. Step 4, sometimes you just have to pick one and then see how the consequences are, after that. You won't know until you decide, if it was the right decision or not. Step 5, talk it over with others and go through your thought process and try to get some advice from people that aren't involved in the decision. Step 6, implement the decision. Turn it into action. Take that first step once you've decided. And step 7, remain flexible. So even though you've decided and you have your end goal in mind, know that sometimes the process, how to get there and the steps, might have to be changed as you go along and go ahead and make the changes as needed. So hopefully that these steps today will have helped you as you need to make decisions, and you'll find yourself as you implement them of being, less stuck. So remember that we can only be ourselves. And by embracing all of myself and having the courage to be seen, that I've really transformed my life. And I'm trying to share that with you. I hope that you find this interesting. You can check me out on my website, couragetobeseen.com. I'm on Instagram. Every day I post inspirational messages. So you can check me out and follow me there. And, make sure you subscribe to this. We're on all the different podcasts. And that way you'll get notified every month when we have a new episode. So thanks for listening, and I hope to talk to you again soon. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you've been inspired to take action on at least one thing starting today. To learn more, check out couragetobeseen.com. There you'll find my blog and additional resources, including you can download a copy of 10 Ways to Live a More Courageous Life. Thanks again for listening, and make sure you tune in next time to learn additional ways to have the courage to be seen in your own life.